Yeah.
I think for me, the Māori Battalion is like world famous in Aotearoa. You know, I don't think anyone would not know who they are. Pretty amazing group of people, but the whakapapa for me, or the knowledge that I have, really goes back to my grandfather, and his name was Hohi Pākupa, and he was born in the early 1890s. He had Ngāti Porou whakapapa from his dad's side, but was also Ngāti Raukawa ki Auketatonga, and lived at Pāporitanga. Strangely, he was actually also an All Black. So he captained the mana whenua team, which was Manawatu Horowhenua, which won the Ranfurly Shield. And so my uncle's name was Ranfurly, named after the Ranfurly Shield, much to his horror. And he married my grandmother, Lucy Atariti Muniata, and they were really strong in rugby as well, in the Horowhenua. But Granddad strangely joined up the Pioneer Battalion, or he joined the Army, New Zealand Army, really as soon as World War I started. And then after the First World War, came back to the Horowhenua, married my grandmother, my mother and her siblings. My grandparents lived on the Otaki Māori racecourse, and they were the custodians of that for a while, and then he moved back to Levin to be near our marae, Ngā Tupawaru, and he became the recruitment officer for the 28th Māori Battalion. And so now in my later life I hear stories about how he recruited, he was known as the bobby calf catcher, because he recruited some of our whānau when they were quite young. For me, we only had two whānau from Pāporitanga who were in 28th Māori Battalion, and my uncle's Uncle Whiwhi Winiata, and also Uncle Charlie Bill. As each of the Māori Battalion soldiers passed away, they would have very big tangi, and it was a real sense of pride at Ngā Tupawaru to host the battalion, or those members of the battalion who were still alive, for those two tangi. I don't remember Uncle Whiwhi's, but I certainly remember Charlie's. For me, that then meant that the Māori Battalion Hall here in Palmerston North on Cuba Street, and the funds for that, when that hall was built, my grandparents, my family were all part of the fundraising for that. And then more recently, I think about 1998 or 99, I then went on to the Māori Battalion Hall Committee, and that was directly through that whakapapa line, and it was opened in 1964. And if you look at it, there's sort of some discussion about what it's based on. So there's some theories around it being a very Japanese style building, but there's also theories around it being the Māori Battalion were in Egypt, and it's a very Egyptian looking building to some degree. And when you stand in the front of it and you look at it, there's the carvings, and then there's the windows, windows, and that is supposed to acknowledge the Māori Battalion beside the rest of the New Zealand Army. And each year we have a service on Anzac Day. It's a military service, so it's quite prescripted. We often don't know a lot about our uri and our soldiers, and that service provides that. There's no political agenda at the service, so like the council used to often say, well, would you like one of our councillors to come and speak? And we're like, no thanks. This is about our men, this is about D Company. Yeah. So that's probably the main connections that I have.